what the FBI is asking for, which is to strip out 3 already implemented security features from a pre-existing phone that was already sold. Apple has no ongoing commercial relationship with this individual, is kind of unprecedented. There's never really been anything like this before. More importantly, the FBI, in their pleadings to the court, said in the very first paragraph of their introduction, we're doing this because Apple has the exclusive technical means, the FBI's words, of getting us access to the data we want. That's not true. I worked for the NSA. I'm familiar with their capabilities. But you don't have to move into classified spaces to see how these type of phones can be hacked unilaterally without the involvement of the companies. And that's because you have to think about sort of the nature of how these devices are stored. The FBI hasn't asked Apple to sort of magically break the encryption on the device, because they can't do that. Nobody can do that. What they've asked is for Apple to make it easier for the FBI to basically try every possible password against the device. Instead of sitting there and trying, 11111, 11112, 11113, they want to automate it with a computer. Now, that doesn't sound extraordinary. What's important here is that Apple doesn't have to do that. There have existed laboratory techniques since the 1990s for attacking hardware devices such as this, where you can clone the chip, you can attack it in a different way. There are what are called enclaves within the chip that has sort of security features that during the manufacture of the device are burned into the chip. This is a technology called e-fuses, where the cryptographic key that's used to protect this hardware from being cloned in the manner that we're sort of discussing is physically set where there's these little hardware switches that are either set to 1 or set to 0 because they're binary, that equal a key, but are physically there. They're not in software, they're actually on the chip. Now, you can do attacks called sort of decapping attacks where you would use acid on the chip, fuming nitric acid, to eat through the coating of it and expose the circuit so you could then look at it with a scanning or tunneling electron microscope or a focused ion beam microscopy model where you could try to observe this. And the government would argue, well, these are complicated chips. This is harder to do than it used to be in the past. And they're not wrong. It is harder to do. But it's not impossible. This kind of thing, these kind of attacks are still mounted today by individuals in their garage, just hackers who have an interest in this, or graduate students who are seeking their PhD. This isn't like a giant team, the Manhattan Project, trying to put a man on the moon. These are individuals operating in vacuums who are able to access these capabilities. And there are even entire other classes of hardware attacks where you flip the chip over and you look at the back of it, and you actually use sort of optical lasers to go through it and image what's going on in the chip. You try to detect photonic emissions that are coming as the transistors on the chip change state to see what part of the chip is active. Where is this operation taking place to engineer it? But you can also inject faults into the chip while it's operating to try to stop an operation, to try to change an operation.
So what you're saying is that they have a gazillion ways to actually get to the phone the way they say they want to. What they want is to establish a legal precedent that would give them the master key to all phones from all makers.
That's precisely it. They're not looking to get into a particular phone. What they're looking for is to create a process that will allow them to get into any arbitrary phone. What they justify on the basis of terrorism today will be used in traffic stops tomorrow.